Ready for class? Welcome back to the Panic Room, everyone, and to another episode of Pax's Little Library of Horrors. Oh, do we have a good one today. So, it is a YA novel, as you can see. It's kind of thick. But it is by the infamous Neil Gaiman. This is M is for Magic. Guys. So it's an anthology. Is it just amazing. Okay, so one of the stories in here is actually from one of my favorite Neil Gaiman books of all time, The Graveyard Book. And it took me back reading that. But there is so much in this particular anthology that I could be here for hours. I'm going to try not to do that. But yeah, it is like a young adult, but there are definitely some things in here that parents might want to be aware of. Not a lot, but just a few things. So we're going to take this story by story, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit of an overview. But if you are a fan of Neil Gaiman, you have got to have this in your library. It is amazing. So the first one started off with a bang. It's The Case of 4 and 20 Blackbirds. And this one was like if a fairy tale and an old gritty detective noir had a baby, because it was essentially a detective story, but all of the characters were like famous nursery rhymes. Like 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie, right? So the whole premise is you have like the death of Humpty Dumpty and everyone trying to figure out like who killed him. And the detective is little Jack Horner. Yeah. So you have like cameos from all of these people, you know, like all the King's Men and all this. So I'm going to try not to give you guys any spoilers because this book is just absolutely amazing. So just know that if you are the type of person that likes like new takes on old things like fairy tales, you're going to love this first story. Absolutely amazing. It was so cool. I love how they wove in all of these classic just tropes. Like, for example, and this isn't a spoiler, like all the King's Men are the policemen, right? I mean, that's perfect, right? Absolutely perfect. It's so good. The first story, again, started out with a bang. So the next story, Trollbridge, I would have to say it's the darkest in this entire collection. I will say. I honestly think so. Because of the subject matter. So you guys know the whole like, I think it's the Billy Goat's Gruff where they cross the bridge and there's a troll underneath and wants to eat them or whatever. But that's the whole thing, like trolls living under bridges, right? So this story is about this kid who, he grows up in this town that has this bridge. And it's very fantastical. Like, it talks about how he's like wandering out into the woods and how he finds this path and stuff. And so he wanders, you know, way far out, finds this bridge, and he meets this troll that's like, I'm going to eat your life. Just like that. I'm going to eat your life. And he's like, no, let me go live a little bit more and I'll come back. Okay? So by a twist of fate, he does. Like, he goes out, he lives his life, ends up back in the same town, comes back. The troll's like, oh, you came back. I'm going to eat your life. He's like, no, you know, give me a little bit longer. You know, I'll come back. So he goes back out. He ends up, like, growing up to be this kind of terrible human being. Like, he becomes successful, but, like, he cheats on his wife and, you know, isn't there for his kids and all of this. And they end up leaving him. So he, like, loses his money, all this. Like, he's in shambles, let's just say. Comes back, like, kind of, in a way, almost feels like he's seeking out this bridge. And the troll's like, okay, I'm going to eat your life now. So he does. It talks about how, like, the troll, you know, last thing he sees is the mouth coming over him. So, but then there is this big twist at the end. And I'm not going to tell you. You need to read this. The twist at the end, I was like, holy shit, that is dark as hell for a kid's book. But it's so good. It's exactly what you expect from Neil Gaiman. It's amazing. It's so good. This might be my favorite story in this entire compilation. Truth be told. It is dark. It is just out there. That ending, oh my gosh. That ending just was kind of traumatizing. Honestly, I can see myself reading that as a kid and it's sticking with me. That's how weird that ending was. But I expect nothing less from Neil Gaiman. He's a genius in that regard. So the next story was called Don't Ask Jack. And it was probably like, I guess the most cerebral, but it was so good. It was centered around this whole idea about like kids forgetting about the toys they played with, you know, and how the toys are always there waiting for them. Oh, it was so good. Specifically a Jack in the Box for this story, but oh, it was so good. And it's one of those that like kind of gives you that little chill, you know, because we've all been there. We've all been like kids and, you know, you move on after you get too old for a toy. So it's very familiar in a lot of ways, but that kind of adds to the creep factor. Oh, it was so good. It was really good. Not quite my favorite. The Troll Bridge story still takes that, but oh, it was good. It was so short. Like, he packed a lot into this really short little story. Okay, so the next one, How to Sell the Ponty Bridge. This one was weird. So it takes place like in this private club of these swindlers, these liars, you know, people who, you know, spend their life trying to like get one over on another person. And that whole, I know you guys have probably heard of this, where like people will try to sell things like, you know, I don't know, beachfront property in Arizona kind of thing. And it talks about how like this mysterious figure comes out and starts telling the story about how he sold the Ponty Bridge. And it's really good. It's kind of like, I don't want to say a mystery, but as the reader, you sort of get caught up in like, well, what is the con here? You know, until the very end. And then it's revealed like what the con is that this guy's telling this group of people about. And it's really good. Like, I don't know, it was just, so I know it's kind of tropey, but it kind of reminded me of almost like an Are You Afraid of the Dark kind of feel, where the opening is, you know, everybody's sitting around and somebody, you know, the host comes out and is like, gather around, I'm going to tell you this story, and then it like fades to black and then opens in the story itself. That's kind of the feel of this story. So if you like that, you're really going to love this story. And it was a good tale. It really was. Okay, and the next one. This one was beautiful. This kind of harkens back to what I was saying about how like if you like new twists or new takes on like an old concept. The next story was called October in the Chair. And it was this meeting of all of the months of the year and what they talk about, which I'm not going to tell you, but absolutely beautiful. I love how in the story the months were given personalities. And for me, I was reading it like, yeah, I bet August would act like that. You know? And the whole thing centers around apparently 1 month, you know, for 30 days or however long, gets to sit in the chair. And we open with October in the chair. So, I don't know, it's beautiful. It has all these like fall vibes. It's great. But the way that Gaiman gave the months personalities is just masterful. Absolutely masterful. I loved that. It was so good. Okay, and the next one, Chivalry. So, you're following this little old lady who likes to go thrifting, right? And she ends up with this chalice, right? Except it's the Holy Grail. And the whole story is like this knight showing up, wanting the Grail. And she like, I don't know, makes him like do odd jobs around the house because she's a little old lady. She can't do a lot of this stuff. And he does it, you know, like he brings her all these artifacts and she's like, that's nice. That will look good next to the photo of my late husband. Stuff like that, right? So again, it has this beautiful ending, kind of like tongue-in-cheek kind of ending about how she finds this lamp in the thrift store. If you think hard enough about it, you'll know what lamp I'm talking about. And how she decides not to buy it. It's really good. I love that one. If you can't tell, this is a really damn fine book. The next one almost made me cry. This is for all you cat lovers out there. Shout out to Coffee Cats and King. So the next one is called The Price. Oh my gosh. So I'm getting chills. Okay? Now I don't have a cat. You guys know I have Xander, my dog. But I like cats. I do. I think they're precious. I have nothing against cats. I just don't happen to have one. So this story is about this family who like lives out in the country, and you know, people will take their cats out there and drop them, and they take them in, you know? And how this one night they have this black cat show up, and how it's all beat up and all this, so they take it down to the basement, you know, they wrap it up, they, you know, give it all this medical care, but the cat starts getting really restless, and he wants to lay outside on the porch. So they're like, okay, fine, if that's what you want to do. The next morning, it's beat up again. And so it keeps happening. Every morning they wake up and the cat has a new injury. And so they're thinking, okay, well, there's like some creature, you know, that it's fighting or what have you. And throughout the story, you get all these like wonderful little blurbs about the different cats that live there and, you know, their personalities, but not a whole lot about this one. Just that it keeps getting beat up at night, but it doesn't want to come inside. It wants to stay on the patio. So then the owner gets the bright idea to use these like night vision goggles and watch for the thing that is attacking the cat. And it is so good. I'm gonna cry. Like, it's such a touching ending. It will make you want to run out and buy a black cat. I'm not joking. It is so good. And it's so masterfully done. It is spooky, like scary. But then you're like, you know, when you find out what the creature is, like what's happening here, your heart just explodes. It's really good. Like, again, I'm gonna cry just thinking about it, but it's a really great story. Oh my gosh. Like I said, it's gonna make you want to go out and buy a cat. Okay, so the next one is called How to Talk to Girls at Parties. And this one is for all my sci-fi lovers. So, do you guys remember, I know I've mentioned Are You Afraid of the Dark once, but this, I don't know, it's something about it, it lends itself to like some Are You Afraid of the Dark vibes. So, do you guys remember, there was this episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark, where there was a boy and a girl and they get invited to like this particular floor of their apartment building, and it's all of these like really uncanny valley people, and like they make, it's like almost like a toy shop, I think is what they tell her it is, but they make them do all these tests and stuff. And if you remember the episode, you know how that ended, and that's the vibe that this story gave me. And it was even better because it has this like really ambiguous ending where you don't really know what happens, but you have enough info that you can kind of guess. And oh my gosh, it's amazing. It is so good. If you like anything at all about like aliens or like human impersonators, you're going to love this. Okay, and the next one was called Sunbird, and it was a weird one. It was a weird one. So this one was about this group of people who, it's almost like this private club, and their whole thing is that they eat weird foods. And the whole premise of the story is that one of them decides that they need to find and eat this sunbird. And stupid me, it took me like halfway through the story to realize that this is a phoenix, essentially. And it's done so well because the guy that suggests that they go for this sunbird, he likes to eat odd things, but not like food odd things, like lit matches and shit, okay? And you find out why at the end, why he does this. And it's so good. It's masterfully told, as of course it is because it's Neil Gaiman. But I will say it wasn't my favorite, but it's still a really damn fine story. And the little twist at the end about why he eats this like weird shit is so funny. Like you're sitting there and you're reading it and you're like, why did I not see that coming? Of course that's why he ate this weird shit. So it was a fun ride. Sunbird was a fun ride. It wasn't my favorite of all these stories, but it was not bad at all. And of course the last story is from the Graveyard Book, and it's about Bod, or Nobody, our little boy who grows up in the graveyard, and his quest to find a headstone. And I mean, I'm biased. I've read the Graveyard Book. I absolutely love that book. If you are at all in love with graveyards and you haven't read that book, I highly recommend. Yes, it is kind of a kid's book, but you'll know what I'm talking about when you read it. It is absolutely beautiful. So I was familiar with this story. It was so nice to revisit Bod and, you know, his world in the graveyard. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. But guys, to end this video, I wanted to read you the little last section. It's almost like a poem of this book, and it's called Instructions. So guys, I know I haven't mentioned it, but in my particular volume of this book, I actually do have some illustrations. Not a lot, but I did want to show you the one for instructions because I thought it was beautiful. It almost has like some secret garden vibes. So I wanted to read you guys this because it is just beautifully creepy. Let me know down below if you think so. Touch the wooden gate in the wall you never saw before. Say please before you open the latch. Go through. Walk down the path. A red metal imp hangs from the green painted front door. As a knocker, do not touch it, it will bite your fingers. Walk through the house. Take nothing. Eat nothing. However, if any creature tells you that it hungers, feed it. If it tells you that it is dirty, clean it. If it cries to you that it hurts, if you can, ease its pain. From the back garden you will be able to see the wild wood. The deep well you walk past leads to the winter's realm. There is another land at the bottom of it. If you turn around here, you can walk back safely. You will lose no face, and I will think no less of you. Once through the garden you will be in the wood. The trees are old. The eyes peer from the underground. Beneath a twisted oak sits an old woman. She may ask for something. Give it to her. She will point the way to the castle. Inside it are 3 princesses. Do not trust the youngest. Walk on. In the clearing beyond the castle, the 12 months sit about a fire, warming their feet, exchanging tales. They may do favors for you if you are polite. You may pick strawberries in December's frost. Trust the wolves, but do not tell them where you are going. The river can be crossed by the ferry. The ferryman will take you. The answer to his question is this: if he hands the oar to his passenger, he will be free to leave the boat. Only tell him this from a safe distance. If an eagle gives you a feather, keep it safe. Remember that giants sleep too soundly, that witches are often betrayed by their appetites. Dragons have one soft spot, somewhere, always. Hearts can be well hidden, and you betray them with your tongue. Do not be jealous of your sister. Know that diamonds and roses are as uncomfortable when they tumble from one's lips as toads and frogs. Colder, too, and sharper, and they cut. Remember your name. Do not lose hope. What you seek will be found. Trust ghosts. Trust those that you have helped to help you in their turn. Trust dreams. Trust your heart. And trust your story. When you come back, return the way you came. Favors will be returned. Debts will be repaid. Do not forget your manners. Do not look back. Ride the wise eagle. You shall not fall. Ride the silver fish. You will not drown. Ride the gray wolf. Hold tightly to his fur. There is a worm at the heart of the tower. That is why it will not stand. When you reach the little house, the place your journey started, you will recognize it, although it will seem much smaller than you remember. Walk up the path and through the garden gate that you never saw before but once, and then go home, or make a home, or rest. Is that not beautiful? Like, seriously, there are parts of that I want tattooed. I thought it was gorgeous. But anyway, guys, I know this is a little bit longer episode of Pax's Little Library of Horrors, so thank you for sticking around. I have to say I thought this book was magical. It is so beautiful. I highly recommend, if you are at all a fan of Neil Gaiman, you need to pick this up. It's absolutely breathtaking at parts. It really is. So guys, thanks for hanging out for another episode of Pax's Little Library of Horrors. Please like and subscribe. It would really help me out. And until next time, class dismissed.